What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, the channel where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And with round 21 kicking off later tonight, it is that time, ladies and gentlemen, to lock in our tips. But before we do so, we need to take time to reflect on round 20, which yet again saw myself pull an abysmal number, 4 out of 9, and it is no fault of my own because I went and changed some tips between the round going down and the tips being locked in. I'm a dickhead, I really am, and it's put me behind the 8 ball so much that I don't think I will be making the top 10 in my own competition this year, which is absolutely terrible. But having a look at the tips I did make for round 20, we kicked off with a tip of Carlton against Port Adelaide by 20 points. They ended up losing by 14. We ended up tipping Geelong in the video, but 5 minutes before the game started, I went back and changed my tip to North Melbourne, and North Melbourne lost by 40 points. We managed to get a correct tip with Brisbane defeating the Gold Coast. We tipped Essendon to defeat St Kilda, and we know St Kilda absolutely belted them. I went GWS over Melbourne, and they just fell over the line. I went Fremantle over West Coast, and they managed to get the job done quite comfortably. I rolled the dice with Richmond over Collingwood, probably a silly move, but given Collingwood's form over the recent months versus Richmond's form, I really gave Richmond a red-hot chance, and 26 points isn't too bad in the scope of things, given it could have been a 10-plus goal loss at one point in time. It was looking that way. We went Sydney over the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs absolutely lapped them up, and we went Hawthorn over Adelaide, and Hawthorn went to fucking town. So while I had an absolutely abysmal round, there was one tipster in the competition this week that managed to pull an 8 out of 9. So special congratulations must go to Benny Craig, Benjamin R, for tipping the most correct amount of tips for round 20. And in saying that, we have seen a monumental shift in the overall leaderboard heading in to our final 4 games of the season. Leading outright on 117 tips, we have Dan Cash. In second place on 114 tips, we have Mikey is a Rat. In third place, tied with a further 2 players, we have Some Cripple, Dusty Fendoff 4, and Team Wiggles, all on 113 tips respectively. In sixth place on 112 tips, we have Frio 90. In 7th place, equal with a further, well actually all the way to 10. So 7th to 10th is a tie between 4 teams respectively, with Pommy Tiger, Madge Tig 77, Saintly 12, and Benny Craig all on 109. That is our top 10. Congratulations to you guys, and a special mention to Dan Cash, who has been very worrisome about his positioning in the ladder this year, but has taken a 3-tip lead with 4 rounds to go and could very well have this competition wrapped up. As I pointed out, my 4 out of 9 places me still in 19th place, 101 tips overall, which means we are 8 tips behind the top 10, and with only 4 rounds left, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to make up those numbers. But round 21 is shaping up to have some matchups that could very well go on the wayside for a number of reasons for a number of teams. So this could be a round where I make some ground up just a little bit. And it all kicks off tonight at Marvel Stadium, opening what is known as the Retro Round, with Footscray taking on Melbourne. Now, before we lock in the tips, I love that Western Bulldogs have taken the initiative with this retro round to not only go with the retro jumpers, but revert back to their Footscray name. I would have loved to have seen other teams get behind this. Sydney, obviously, originally being South Melbourne. Brisbane potentially standing up as Fitzroy would have been great to see as well. So moving forward, maybe something the competition can look at. But we do have Footscray playing Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. This is a huge game. Melbourne losing this probably puts a strike through their chances of playing finals this season, and the Bulldogs losing this, similar circumstances, a lot on the line, their season very much in the balance. But after the Bulldogs getting the big win last week over Sydney at the SCG, I do not see them going to Marvel and losing this game. So we are locking in Footscray FC to win, and I'm taking them by 17 points. We have 2 games tonight. And I hate that they fucking do them around similar times as well, but we have West Coast taking on the Gold Coast at Optus Stadium. Now, the Gold Coast this year historically have not travelled well. They are yet to win a game on the road, and it's going to be very interesting because West Coast in Optus, they've dropped a few games there this year, but they have looked like a different beast when playing at that ground. This could very well be the instance where the straw breaks the camel's back for them if they do lose this. But winning this might keep them in contention for finals for another week. Even though they're a win behind some of other teams, this win could keep them in that hunt, and with other kind of results falling certain ways, they could end up still sneaking into the 8. It's not out of the realm of possibilities here. I don't know where to go, and I don't know where to side. Gold Coast obviously go into this game as favourite, but West Coast playing at home, and they've got a few players coming back in this week. It's going to be very interesting. I see they were very competitive against Brisbane, and they just lost last week at People's First. Their first blemish at People's First for the year, mind you. West Coast got blown out of the water by Fremantle, but Fremantle are a top 4 contender, so can we take that into consideration? I don't know. I'm going to lock in Gold Coast tentatively here. I could very well change that before the game launches tonight, but I think the Gold Coast might very well pick up their first win on the road. Tomorrow afternoon at Marvel Stadium, a game that I am going to be going to, and I'm stoked to be going to this game because it'll be my daughter's first Richmond game or AFL game ever, and neither of my kids have been to Marvel Stadium, so it's going to be an experience. But North Melbourne taking on Richmond. I would have all but certainly locked in North Melbourne if Richmond didn't have the ins we had this week. We've got Jack Graham coming back in, who has been playing a clampdown role on some players over recent weeks, so I can see him going to a Sheasel or going to a Davies Uniacke. Toby Nankervis back in, so the battle between Nankervis and Cherry in the ruck is going to be brilliant because they both are cut from a similar cloth. Dustin Martin back in for Richmond as well. I know Richmond don't like travelling to Marvel, but I'm going to take Richmond to win this one. I think it's going to be a very close game, and I'm hoping Richmond can get over the line. Later on that afternoon at GMHBA, we have Geelong taking on Adelaide. Adelaide got walloped at home. There is no way they go to GMHBA Stadium and do some damage. Geelong will win this one quite comfortably. Saturday night has not only game of the round, but could potentially be game of the year in many retrospects. We have Collingwood taking on Carlton. Carlton bring back Harry Mackay after the illness he suffered from last week. Collingwood regain Billy Frampton, Jordan Tagoe, kind of played back into form against Richmond last week. Carlton losing a close game against Port Adelaide. I think Collingwood here can get the upside out of this game, and with no Tom De Koning in the ruck, I mean, Collingwood don't have anybody of note in the ruck. They've got Darcy Cameron, they've got Mason Cox back in, but they can double team Pitnet, and that could really be something to work with in their favour. I'm actually going for the upset here, given that Carlton go into this game as favourite, and I'm going to go Collingwood to win. Let's keep this into perspective. Collingwood beat Carlton here, and then next week, Hawthorn beat Carlton. Carlton drop out of the top 8, and they're at risk of missing the finals completely. Nothing is certain going into these last few rounds, and a team that has been in the top 4 for most of the year is now at risk of potentially not making finals at all, but I'm going Collingwood for the upset. Saturday night rounds out at Adelaide Oval with Port Adelaide taking on Sydney. Sydney has been the far superior team this year. However, and I digress, Port Adelaide has won the last 5 meetings that these two teams have had, and of those 5, the last 3 that have been at Adelaide Oval have all gone the way of Port Adelaide, and I am going to take Port Adelaide over Sydney. Something just tells me that Port Adelaide is going to get up at home. Sydney were a shadow of their former selves last week against the Bulldogs. They're going to want to bounce back because even though they're a couple of wins clear, or a win and a half clear on top of the ladder, again, nothing is certain, and they could still very well lose that top spot. The first of 3 games on Sunday kicks off at Manuka Oval, GWS taking on Hawthorn. Another game that has a lot on the line because both of these teams still well and truly in the hunt. Hawthorn go into this game as one of the informed teams of the competition. GWS go in after a solid start, a shaky middle, but they've got their form back, they've got their groove back. This is going to be a great game as well. I'm looking forward to this game just as much as I am the Collingwood-Carlton game. Got to give GWS the edge at home, but I could very well change my tip at the last minute to Hawthorn because Hawthorn are playing some absolutely brilliant football. It's going to be great seeing these teams go head-to-head because the orange tsunami that we have seen with GWS and the wave they push from defensive 50 to forward 50 is exactly how Hawthorn have been operating over recent weeks, so it's going to be an interesting watch. MCG Sunday night, Essendon, Fremantle. I'm backing Fremantle. After seeing what Essendon dished up last week against St Kilda, there is no way that Fremantle come down here as one of the best contested ball-winning teams in the competition and fumble the ball against a team that showed any, or no will to win a hard ball in a half of football as we saw last week against St Kilda. Essendon season on the line. They lose this one, they're not playing finals. Simple as that. And it rounds out at Marvel Stadium Sunday afternoon with St Kilda taking on Brisbane, and I am taking Brisbane to win this one. I have said over recent weeks, Brisbane is the informed team of the competition and probably right now would have to be premiership favourites. And I say that given the fact that if they can finish second or even finish first on the ladder, they're going to guarantee themselves a home final week 1. They win at the Gabba, they then go on to play their next final at the Gabba, which would give them almost a walk into the grand final. This is a team that started the year off so poorly that we thought they were not going to make the finals at all. They've almost got themselves in a guaranteed position where 2 home finals is going to see them walk to the grand final, and I could probably very well argue from that point moving forward that they would already have one hand on the Premiership Cup. It's going to be an interesting watch. Huge few weeks of football coming up, but just to recap who I am tipping this week, I'm going with Footscray, Gold Coast, Richmond, Geelong, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, GWS, Fremantle and Brisbane. Thank you for joining me for another video. Do hope you guys enjoy the content I put out. And speaking of content, if you've got any suggestions for videos you would like to see, whatever they might be, comment down below and let me know your thoughts. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.